up, family? I'm Tenitra Batiste.
And I'm Jarvis Davis.
And this is Fill in the Blank. So, Jarvis, what's happening? How was your weekend?
It was good. You know, we got a chance to go out to the Falcons game this week, cover the Falcons. So
first
we'll
time.
Get into that, right?
Right. First time for us
the
to
squad
cover.
Was together?
Yes, together at the game because, of course, we're out at Flowery Branch each and every week. Interviewing players, talking to coaches, but this Sunday was our first time working together at Falcons. So, that was a tough one. That was a tough pill to swallow, Jarvis. That 24-10 loss. It was close and it was not close all at the same time. When the final score was tallied, it felt like it was a much bigger loss than 24-10. So let's talk about it. What did you take away? Would you walk away and say, okay, you know what? In spite of them now moving to 1-3 for the second straight season, I feel like this was the good of it.
You know what? I think that the good part was the day that Austin Hooper had. Austin Hooper had a really good day. He had one drop, but it was almost as if I think right now the way Hooper's been playing this towards the end of last year and this year, I think that you automatically know in your mind, okay, this is going to be an anomaly. Yes. This is not something that is going to continue. And immediately, not too long after that, Matt went right back to him, and he was able to continue making catches. But I do think that that's what the Tennessee Titans wanted him to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Wanted the Falcons to do.
That's right.
They were like, okay, we'll give you this. We'll give you this little 7-8 yards a pop. Maybe get a couple first downs for you. But as far as trying to get up top to 11, 18, or 12, nah, we're gonna make sure we're going to take care of that, and we'll give you all that underneath stuff. But that was a good sign to see that Matt and Austin's chemistry is just continue to grow and build.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you said that because ahead of the game, we talked a lot about what the X factor could be based on what we were seeing out of the secondary from the Titans. Thought maybe Calvin Ridley could bounce back and have a big day, but like you said, you take whatever the Titans give you, and they were willing to give up a few yards here and there for Hoop, but never the big play, especially when you got into the red zone. My good from Sunday was that the Falcons are improving on penalties, so not shooting themselves in the foot as often. When you talk about 7 penalties for about 50 yards, when the first 3 games we're talking about numbers into the hundreds as far as yards for penalties. So that was really
yardage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm feeling like they're at least save a few kind of bumbly errors that were head scratchers from our veterans, but other than a few of those, really it seems like they're starting to clean up in that particular space. Now, the bad, Jarvis? Where do you start? We're just going to give one.
Right? I'm almost kind of at a point where, like, all right, should I move this to ugly? Because it was at some points it was really ugly, and you just really questioned like what was going on back in the back end of the defense.
Yes.
But I would have to go with the secondary. I'm gonna start with Desmond Trufant. Now, I'm gonna preface my statement by saying Desmond Trufant was having probably one of the best. He had one of the best training camps I've ever seen, and he had gotten off to a really good start, and he was playing with a lot of confidence and really, really doing some really good things back there as that guy that nobody throws to.
Right.
But I think that the Tennessee Titans saw something, and they tried him, and they continue to do that. So, giving up a couple of touchdowns, and I think it's just something that the Falcons, it was just really bad to see your veteran guy go through what he did.
Yeah, and we're going to be nice to them. We're not going to talk ugly, but I will give them one more bad because, hey, at the end of the day, still got to figure out what's going on with the run game. If we are comfortable and confident that the O-line is giving the team what they need in terms of being able to get the ball down the field, well, and you're saying that that's not the issue, well, what is it? Because you can't keep having games where you have 17 carries for 58 yards, and for a while, your longest carry of the day was from your quarterback, who's not exactly known for scrambling outside of the pocket. Anyway, Jarvis, this was one that I thought was really interesting, or would be interesting to you. The state of California is moving forward in its efforts to change amateurism. Exactly, secure the bag in college sports. Governor Gavin Newsom signed the state's fair pay to play bill. They're going to make that a state law come 2023. So student athletes will be allowed to hire agents. They'll be allowed to easily make money off their names, their images, their likenesses. Now, the NCAA, of course, had to come back with a statement, and they basically said that, yes, they do believe that there should be some support for student athletes and that changes should be made, but those changes need to go through them. So my question, especially to you as a former college athlete, is is this a sneak peek into what is finally about to happen on the college athletics landscape? And is this the real beginning of maybe the end of the NCAA as college sports governing body?
I think I don't think it's necessarily the beginning of the end, but I think it's a good step towards what needs to happen, and that is change.
Yes.
Because people are comfortable with the way it's currently constructed, because a lot of people are making a lot of money. And it's like the whole corporate model, right? Keep the overhead low.
Yes.
And when you have free labor, that overhead, you can understand like what that. And you talk about a not-for-profit organization, that money has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
That's why you have 32-inch screens in each player's locker, and you're talking about 90 to 100 people on one particular roster on a college football team at a Power 5 school. So I think that it is definitely time for change, and of course there are a lot of people who don't like it, and I think that those are some of the people who are actually benefited from it. One of them are head coaches. When you're talking about guys are getting 7-8 figure annual salaries, that's something that's really interesting, because when you look at it, these guys are making a lot of money.
Absolutely.
They're making a lot of money. And then when you have a instance in where a rules is written to the point where me as a head coach, and I'm making 7-8 figures, I can't even take my whole team out and personally pay for it.
Right.
That's you're breaking the rules right there. That doesn't make any sense, right?
So it'll be interesting.
So how is that a benefit, or an impermissible benefit? Yeah. So when you have all those things like that in place that are so ancient, I think it's time for a change, and people need to stop being afraid of change.
Absolutely, absolutely. So speaking of changing, trending up, the Hawks. The Hawks had a media day on Monday.
This is slowly becoming my favorite team.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why in a second.
You absolutely know. I love this. Is my favorite beat. I get absolutely excited. So mad that I was under the weather and not able to get to media day. But I will be there when they kick off the preseason against Zion Williamson and the Pelicans come October 7th, Monday, October 7th. Season starts on October 24th at Detroit. So Hawks, of course, finished last season at 29 wins. So where do they finish this season? I mean, this season, we're looking at year 2 for Trae Young, year 2 for Trae and John Collins being together along with Kevin Huerter, looking to see those games elevated. It's Lloyd Pierce's sophomore season as the head coach. We've got the elder statesman, Uncle Vince, coming back. And we got an awesome rookie class, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, Bruno Fernando. Where are our guys going this season?
Wow, that is a great question.
Yeah.
Did I mention that I really like this team?
Yes.
I really like this team, because there's potential for a lot of these guys to become superstars.
Yeah.
You talking about Trae Young, in that conversation. You talking about John Collins, definitely all-star for John Collins. He is a 18-9 guy. Like, come on now, that is something that
double
is
king
there.
last year.
And I'm telling you, that is something that is going to be very valuable to this team. And when you add a guy, I was reading about some of the first impressions of DeAndre Hunter, because we didn't get a chance to see him in Summer League.
Right.
So you start hearing like Alex Lynn calling him Baby Kawhi, and then you talking about Lloyd Pierce and talking about how his defensive prowess and how that is something that he, Pierce is real big on defense.
Which we started to see them trending into that the back end of last season.
So I think that's something that's going to be to look out for. And also, DeAndre is a guy, he's like, I want to be able to be guarding the best player on the team. That's my goal. And for a guy to come in, and nowadays the way these guys are currently, their thought processes are like, all right, I'm just trying to shoot from half court. I'm trying to drop 40.
Right.
This guy comes in saying, man, I want to be able to guard the best person on the team. I think you might be on to something, because that was a big piece that the Hawks were missing last year. So I'm thinking 35 to 38 wins, possibly getting the 8 seed.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And when you look at the abysmal Eastern Conference in the NBA, the 8 seed is definitely not out
Corey
of the
don't
picture.
agree with me, by the way.
Yeah, our producer's like, what?
Our producer's like,
Say
what? Like, come on, dude.
Bro.
Really?
But you have to think about what it looked like at the end of the year as well. You got to think about the fact that, yes, they did finish the last 10, maybe 12 games at 500, but it wasn't just finishing at 500. It was the way they finished at 500. and it was what they were able to do on that back end
And the
that
league
really
is on
got
notice,
them to
too.
29. Yes, I was able to cover them for NBA All-Star Weekend, and they definitely made sure that weekend you found out. If you didn't know who Trae Young and John Collins were, you knew after that weekend. So let's get a little bit of rapid fire, and we're going to hit you with 2, 3, 8? Maybe topics. We'll see how quickly
12,
Jarvis
30,
can
it
talk,
don't matter.
because
Let's do it.
Jarvis, he likes to, he gives us
A
that
little
slow
long-winded.
drag, but we're going to
Yeah.
try to get it in. We're going to try to get it in. We're going to start with our fill in the blanks question of the week.
All right.
Who is that guy?
Who's the best quarterback of all
coach.
time? And there
That
was
was our
one guy
question.
that mentioned on our Instagram page at Fill in the Blanks. Check us out. Go follow us. We post our question every week. He said Peyton Manning. Jamie Walker, our guy.
Yes.
our guy.
What's up, Jamie?
What's up, Jay? He said Peyton Manning, and the first thing that came to my mind was Peyton Manning was a great quarterback
Yes,
in the regular season.
Yeah.
He put up amazing numbers, but I think when I think about that guy, a guy that you don't want to face in the playoffs, in my time, it has to be Tom Brady. And I hate to say that. It put something in my cheese curd start boiling in my stomach or something when I mention his name, because obviously the 28-3 it happened,
Yeah.
but it didn't happen in my mind. but
You just kinda
when you
blocked
think
that
about
out.
but when you think about being that dude for so long, it seems like he's been an elite quarterback for 20 years almost. And for him to be able to do what he's been doing for this amount of time, I mean, I know people say, okay, Joe Montana, he's undefeated, 4 Super Bowls, but when you're talking about having 6 Super Bowls and being so good for so long, and the longevity of being the level and playing at the level he's played at, it has to be Tom Brady for me.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's a tough call for a Steelers fan. But truth be told, the only other argument that you may be able to put out there would be like with a Joe Montana, because you're looking at 4 Super Bowl appearances, 4 Super Bowl wins.
Undefeated, right?
But right,
Yeah.
exactly. So you
The
you
MJ
kind of
conversation,
exactly.
MJ
That's
LeBron
the there you go, the
conversation, right?
MJ LeBron conversation.
There you go.
So it's kind of that piece. But once Tom Brady got past the 4 rings to go with the 9, 10 appearances,
Yeah, exactly,
at that point, to me, it becomes a no-brainer, and it really does go Tom Brady all the way. So Oprah Winfrey doing big things over the weekend, pledging to donate $1 million to help students at HBCUs. She made the pledge on Saturday while speaking at the 17th annual Maya Angelou Women Who Lead Luncheon. The UNCF had set a goal to raise $1 million at the luncheon. They raised $1.15 million before Winfrey's keynote speech. Then she announced that she would match that amount, so that brought the total to around $2.3 million for our HBCUs.
Hey, man, shout out to her.
Yes,
I gotta give her a round of applause.
Love it,
because
love it, love it.
When you start, I think a lot of times when we see these hears of celebrities saying like, okay, we're gonna give this amount of money, and people are like, well, why don't you do it all the time? Like, all right, it's their money.
Right.
They don't have
Yeah.
to.
You
She
can't
went
count
to
your
tennis.
pennies.
Get
You
out
can't count
get out of Oaks pocket, man. Come on now,
Right.
you got to stop doing that. So I think we got to applaud people like this when they do these type of things. And when they do these type of things, try to not necessarily come. I don't have $1 million to give,
Right.
but if you're truly want to support, find out a way how you can support, whether it be financially or with your time.
Right,
Yeah.
time, talent, and treasures, as we always
Indeed.
say. So Vontez Burfict, he's giving up his money in a not so good
He
way
giving up
for
a lot
a
of his
not so
money.
good reason. Yes, he pulled a Vontez Burfict on Sunday when he went headfirst into Jack Doyle's head. That, of course, was the Colts tight end, unharmed, so that's a good thing. But the NFL did not play this time. They acted quickly on Monday. They suspended him for the rest of the season. He'll miss 12 games, so that means he'll miss 12 paychecks. He's led the NFL with personal fouls, get this, 23 since entering the league in 2012. He's been fined almost $500,000 in that same amount of time. Doesn't include $3.7 million he's forfeited in game checks due to suspensions for on-field violations. So was that suspension for the season the right move? Was it too much? Was it not enough?
I mean, I think that when you look at what the overall history of this guy, right? So you just done up a lot of numbers, money he's missed out on, or he's had to pay out, or from a fine standpoint. All of those things, it makes you wonder. It's like, okay, so is the message really getting through to him? Right. And that's the question you're gonna have to answer. So is the death penalty, so to speak, on the table, where you're going to be banned for life from the NFL? And because the NFL, $1 billion, a lawsuit is still on the plate for player safety. And that's their biggest concern. And it's all about perception when it comes to the NFL.
Absolutely. So now, speaking of the NFL, we're at a point in the season. We've gotten through a quarter of the season. We still have 3 teams that are undefeated: Patriots, Chiefs, 49ers. But I thought this was interesting, too. 8 teams that are still at 3-1. Your Bills, Cowboys, and really in the NFC North, Bears, Packers, and Lions, Saints, Seahawks, and Rams. Pretenders and contenders from that list. I think Patriots, Chiefs, we definitely know are contenders from what we saw last year, because the AFC representative in the Super Bowl could have easily been the Chiefs, right? 49ers, we were expecting this once they got Jimmy Garoppolo back, so they're doing what we thought they would be capable of doing. But I want to talk more about the contenders and the pretenders real quick within that 8, right? Like, who do you think actually has an opportunity to contend, and who, you're pretending. It's not your year, really.
You know what? I'm just going to run it down. The Bills, I don't trust Josh Allen. I'm not quite on that train just yet, but their defense is playing lights out. And I love defensive-minded teams. So if Josh Allen can keep turnovers down, maybe they can possibly do something. But in that division with the Patriots, I have to go with pretenders. Cowboys, if you shut down Zeke, man, you see the Cowboys still can't get it done. Yeah. If you look at the Cowboys, so I might see that they could be contenders. I see them making the Bears pretenders. Yeah. Mitchell Trubisky's going to be out for some time. Even with Mitchell Trubisky, I didn't trust that team anyway. Right. Definitely don't trust the Lions. Right. Saints. Look at the division. They're going to be contenders.
Right.
and I think the Seahawks are going to be contenders as well, because Russell Wilson has got it. He is smoking out there. Yeah. He's got it really going out there. And the Rams, I don't know. I don't trust Jared Goff. I know they made it to the Super Bowl, but I think maybe the book is out right now on that whole Sean McVay mystery magical system. So we shall see. So I'm going to hold off on them being contenders at this point.
Okay, got to see which Rams team is going to show up on a more than 1 week basis,
because it's
Jekyll and
teams
Hyde
like
with them.
That
Same thing for the Packers.
Yeah.
Very Jekyll and Hyde. So speaking of which person is going to show up, we now know who's going to show up for halftime. For the Super Bowl, J-Lo and Shakira are set to co-headline. Mixed results on whether or not people are excited about that pairing. Mm-hmm. For me, it's kind of a toss-up, but I'm kind of encouraged about the fact that they said there would be a lot of guests.
Of course.
So we're going to see Pitbull, which I think he's just the ultimate hype man. Yeah. So I'm good with that. Uncle Luke, I'm not sure that there's a way for you, Trina, Pastor Troy, or anybody to tone all that down.
Let me take you to a place now. Let me take you there. Let me bring the division. You got Shakira and J-Lo out there doing their thing. You know, the little Latina flavor going on. They got the little salsa. They're getting it in. They're doing their thing. You getting the vibe.
I'm on
then
South
next
Beach.
thing you know, it gets completely dark. Then next thing you know,
No. Now, what I will say, I think Rick Ross might be able to do a little something.
Then you bring Trina and Trick at the same time.
Now, Trina, I'm good with. I saw her in concert. I'm advocating for Trina. But I don't know about Uncle Luke. That might just be too good. Might be too good.
This is Miami.
Yeah.
Like he's
But I do think they should bring the OG Gloria Estefan out. I do.
Okay.
The OG. Okay. She deserves that.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, she totally deserves that. So what we deserve is to see a team go deeper in the postseason than we have seen them go in 18 years. Jarvis, it's so interesting because it depends on the narrative that you've bought into, or maybe the narrative that a team has sold. But we aren't shocked sometimes when the Falcons disappoint us. We're like, yeah, you kind of thought about that. And that's the team here in Atlanta. But there are other teams all across the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, who when they disappoint you, that's what you expect. Mm-hmm. Here, when the Braves are doing their thing, we expect excellence. So it was shocking for me to see that they hadn't won a postseason series in 18 years. They're now going to host the NLDS come Thursday. They're going to host the Cardinals. They are expected to win. Is this the time for the Braves where they're actually going to break that drought?
I mean, it depends on what team shows up. It
Yes.
depends on who shows up on the
Especially
pitching
in the
staff.
pitching rotation.
When that pitching rotation, that has been something that has, I think the Braves just now kind of like, okay, here's our three guys, you know. So when you look at what, you know, Dallas Keuchel could bring to the table, Fultonavich going through what he went through, he's gone. He's been up and down the entire year.
Right.
So I think I think the pitching staff sets the tone because the lineup, they can go with anybody. I
Right.
put that lineup up against the Dodgers as well, as far as from a run producing standpoint.
Absolutely.
I think that they can get to the World Series if I'm just looking strictly at their lineup.
Yeah.
But that pitching staff, they're the ones that's going to have to carry the torch.
Yeah, although I'm a little nervous, not a lot nervous, but just a slight bit nervous with what Freddie Freeman is dealing with as far as the Bone Spurs. I do believe they've got backup support with Adeiny Echeverria and with Austin Riley at first base, but that's our guy. He is MV free all day, every day, so we're hoping
makes that lineup go.
He does.
Yeah.
He makes that lineup go, so we're hoping that we can get the goods from him. Shout out to Allison Felix, who delivered the goods yet again. She officially holds the world record for the most titles after giving birth. Just 10 months ago, she broke a tie with Usain Bolt. So there is hope, Serena, that you'll one day tie and break the tie with Margaret Court for the most titles, most tennis titles. The 33-year-old Felix earned her tie-breaking medal on Saturday when she ran in the first ever mixed gender 4x400. And interestingly enough, that event is actually going to make its Olympic debut next year in Tokyo. But shout out to Allison Felix for doing it just 10 months after becoming a mom.
Man, that's some of that black girl magic, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what that means?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what that means. You got that right on point. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about the type of, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, because, you know, at some points when it comes to pain, you know, I could be a little soft, a little tissue, you know, get a little Charmin in me. But for a woman to be able to give birth
Yes.
and the amount of pain that I will never experience, I'll never be able to speak on.
Yes.
For her to be able to go through that and then come out and beat one of the best athletes in the world.
In the world.
At in her craft.
Yes.
Man, that's amazing. That's an amazing accomplishment for sure.
Yeah, and you know what else is amazing? When your high school jersey can sell for $500,000. So you remember the high school jersey that LeBron James sported back in '02 on the cover of SI. Early bidding started at $37, but the expectation, I think it's going to be on the auction block for about 3 weeks. Expectation is that it's going to go for $500,000.
That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. But when you think about what all of the hype, like LeBron is the modern day hype.
He is.
All the hype that comes with guys who coming out of college when they playing football and, you know, 5-star recruiting and all of this AAU stuff, all of this, he is that.
Yes.
He is the epitome of that. Like, I think that the expectations that were set for him, normally they fail. Normally guys like that fail.
Right.
You know, when you have those expectations are so high when your high school games are on ESPN.
Yes.
And for him to meet those expectations and exceed in some areas, man, that's why I say that GOAT conversation, he has to be in that conversation once it's all said and done.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you a quick question on this Shaq Dame Lillard diss track, and then we got to give the people a little bit of knowledge on HBCUs as far as our Pioneer of the Week. But real quick, Shaq, Dame Lillard, diss tracks. What's up with that?
Wow. Dame Lillard was on the Joe Budden podcast, and they were asking him about, you know, how he got in the rap game, and how he kind of has had a different approach to putting his stuff out there. He's more so kind of keeping it as if he's just an artist trying to make it, versus having a platform where he can just put his stuff out there and he can front the money himself, you know, because he just signed a Supermax deal.
Yes.
So, and the conversation kind of turned to like, okay, how you feel you measure up against Shaquille O'Neal? And of course, Dame said, I feel like I'm better than Shaq. Now I appreciate what he did.
Right.
You know, he went platinum. Yeah, he went platinum and all that stuff. So, and of course, you know, Shaq being the guy he is, he got wind of it. He came up with a diss track, and Shaq went in. He went in. He definitely went in. So, for him to do, and it was pretty. Shaq got a little bars. He got a little bars, but Dame came back though. He came back.
He came with it. Yeah.
He came back with real
kinda give him the-
strong. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think Dame responded accordingly. That's for sure. So yeah, I just think it's kind of funny that you have basketball players having a rap beef. And it's actually pretty decent.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
and they-
like,
right,
you're
they
like,
actually
okay,
have some skills,
the lyrical
like,
content
yeah.
was there.
They-
Okay, cool.
flow,
Yeah. Dame
everything.
got bars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
Dame got
yeah,
bars.
shout out to Dame, man.
All right. So, Jarvis, tell us a little bit about this great legend on the gridiron, our HBCU Pioneer of the Week.
HBCU Pioneer of the Week is Walter Payton. He is a Mississippi native. He was involved in a lot of activities as a lot of great athletes are. They play various sports, but he kind of wanted to stay away from football because that's what his brother was doing. And I don't understand that because for me, my brother did something. I ain't always want to follow in his footsteps, but for him to be able to kind of avoid it. But once his brother graduated, he went on ahead and started playing football and then got a scholarship to go to Jackson State.
Yes.
So he stayed around at home, and then he kind of got on the eye of the NFL. Those NFL scouts started roaming around in his sophomore year. Let me tell you this, Tanisha. This dude set the SWAC single game scoring record by rushing for 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, crazy.
7
Crazy.
in one game. So this guy obviously got on the radar of a lot of NFL teams. He went on to become the first-round pick in 1975 for the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
And then the rest is history. He rewarded them by rushing for 1,900 yards and 13 touchdowns, man.
Crazy.
This amazing career. And I think that not only how we can kind of look at how great Walter Payton was as a player, he was an even better person.
Yes.
Anybody that knew Walter Payton in Chicago, in the Midwest, I think that they could tell you something, a story about this man and just how great he was, just how his name was Sweetness.
Right.
What grown man accepts that nickname?
Right. And it's grown with
and it's not within him like that. Just to be a genuine, all around good person.
Yeah.
So shout out to you, Walter Payton. HBCU Pioneer of the Week.
Yeah, and it's amazing that we lost him 20 years ago. Actually, a couple years ago, I had an opportunity to meet and interview William the Refrigerator Perry, one of Peyton's longtime teammates.
Big time character on the 85 team, right?
Yeah, so I met some of those guys, and they just had amazing words about Walter Payton, even to this day. Like you said, not just what he did on the field, but who he was to them even as individuals off the field. So great stuff for our Pioneer of the Week. And so let's get into a little bit of tea before we go today. So, Jarvis, I guess it's never too late to do anything in this world that you want to do, including become a dad.
Yeah.
Too
People
short.
have kids later on.
Yes,
in life.
Too Short has transitioned into fatherhood. Apparently, he welcomed his
Can
first
I say his saying?
child.
No. The producer looking at me crazy. This is hard to get out right now, so I guess that's a no.
Yeah, we know his favorite word.
He's
But
a
anyway, so he
snitch.
had, we already know, which he will not be able to recite as a, as one of those nursery rhymes.
Yeah.
He's not going to be able to do that because he has a daughter.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work as a nursery rhyme, his favorite word.
He's going to be reading Freaky Tales to his
Not
daughter.
at all.
Yeah.
She will never be able to have her dad sing any of his songs to put her to sleep. But he and his girlfriend welcomed their daughter. Actually, they shout out to them for keeping this under wraps since December. And now he's actually going to introduce her into the spotlight. He's working with Ray J to put together a documentary about what it feels like to raise little girls in Hollywood. So shout out to them for just always finding a way to, let us into their lives and do it while just continuing to secure the bag.
Shout out to Too Short, man.
Yeah, at
My
53.
53 years old.
You did that. Number two, our story as we wrap up, just a cautionary tale to our Falcons fans. If you count out the Saints, especially with Breezy, because he may or may not be back for the November 10th game in New Orleans, you might want to just kind of step on back with that. One of the most anticipated games of the weekend, of course, was this battle in New Orleans with the Cowboys, with the Saints, 12-10. Cowboys fans devastated because they lost. Perhaps none more than the guy who said he was so confident that the Cowboys were going to win that he was going to eat his jersey because they were just going to trot out some dude, Teddy Bridgewater, a guy who almost had his leg amputated because he fell over at practice. So I have zero worries that I'm going to have to eat this jersey Falcons fans, be careful with that.
Yeah, be careful saying stuff that might actually make you do it. Like the guy up in Cleveland on Sports Talk Radio up in Cleveland, they had to eat some boo-boo.
Yeah.
I said boo-boo because I have a
You
daughter.
know, you want to be
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So, yeah.
Because you
yeah.
know, you put that out on social media like this guy did on Reddit. You can tweet and delete all you want to, but it is really still out there in the atmosphere for all of us to see. We thank you guys for joining us again this week. Please continue to put all of your questions out there. We want to hear from you guys. Thank you for all the support. Of course, follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram at Fill in the Blanks.